We as a community stand firm in our decision. We will not sell an inch of our land. This is our shared belief. While white settlers may come and go, we reject any attempts to invade our territory and build their homes upon it. Ouray. In the 19th century, Chief Uray guided the Tabaguash Uncompahgre faction of the Ute tribe in western Colorado. He was born around 1833 near Taos, New Mexico. According to Ute elders' oral history, he entered the world on a remarkably clear night, adorned with a breathtaking meteor shower stretching across the winter sky. This celestial phenomenon was interpreted by the elders as a promising omen, a divine indication of positive events to come. Uray's mother belonged to the Uncompahgre band of Ute, while his father, Guaramura, was half Jicarilla Apache. He was raised in the Taos region, where Spanish and English were the primary languages, and only learned to speak Ute and Apache later in life. During his youth, he mainly worked for Mexican sheep herders and engaged in battles against rival Sioux and Kiowa tribes. At around 18 years old, Ouray journeyed into Colorado and joined the Tabaguache Ute band, where his father, despite being of Apache descent, held leadership. In 1859, he wedded a Tabaguache Ute woman named Chipeta, who, despite being of Kiowa Apache origin, had been taken in and raised by the Ute tribe since childhood. Upon his father's passing in 1860, Ouray assumed leadership as the chief of the Ute Indians, which included the Uncompahgre band. As chief, Ouray was hailed as one of the Utes' most esteemed leaders, distinguished by his remarkable patience and diplomatic skills. He earned the nickname the White Man's Friend due to his proactive efforts to foster cooperation with white settlers and the government. In October 1863, Ouray brokered a treaty that allocated a reservation for the Tabaguache Ute. Unfortunately, the Ute tribe relinquished most of their territory situated east of the continental United States to the government. In 1868, Ouray journeyed to Washington, D.C. to advocate for his people and was designated as head chief of the Ute by the government. Another treaty was established, designating reservation lands in Colorado for the Tabaguache, Moache, Capote, Wiminuche, Yampa, Grand River, and Uinta bands, yet more land was ceded. Despite Ouray's persistent efforts to ensure favorable conditions for his people while maintaining good relations with white settlers, each new treaty resulted in greater land losses for the Ute. As land diminished, growing resentment emerged among many Ute, leading to several attempts on Ouray's life. Nonetheless, he survived and continued to uphold his conciliatory approach. Following the discovery of gold in Colorado, the Ute faced significant changes as miners flooded onto their lands, leading to a deterioration in relations between the Indians and the white settlers. In the spring of 1878, Nathan Meeker took on the position of Indian agent at the White River Agency. Employing a dictatorial management style, Meeker attempted to impose farming, livestock raising, the cessation of pony racing and hunting, and mandatory schooling on the Ute in an undiplomatic manner. Despite warnings that his actions were enraging the Ute, Meeker persisted in his efforts to transform them from what he perceived as primitive savages into hard-working, God-fearing farmers. He even ordered the plowing under of a horse racing track to convert it to farmland and suggested culling some of the Ute's horses due to perceived overpopulation. When the Ute resisted, a physical altercation ensued as Meeker continued to press his reforms on their land. Consequently, Meeker sent a request for military aid, alleging that he had been attacked by a Ute man, forced out of his residence, and gravely harmed. In response, the government dispatched 200 troops under the command of Major T.T. Thornburg. Interpreting the dispatch of troops as an act of war, the Utes launched a revolt. On September 29, 1879, prior to the arrival of the troops, the Indians assaulted the agency, setting fire to the buildings and killing Meeker along with 9 of his associates. This tragic event is remembered as the Meeker Massacre. Meeker's wife, daughter, and another girl were taken captive and held for 23 days. Following the massacre, relief forces from Forts Fred Steele and D.A. Russell in Wyoming quelled the Ute uprising in the Battle of Milk Creek, Colorado, putting an end to the conflict. Despite Ouray's directives to the Ute band responsible for the attacks to cease their actions, his commands went unheeded. Despite his efforts to restore peace, the situation had escalated beyond control. Local settlers demanded the removal of the Ute from the area. One headline in the October 30, 1879 issue of Harper's Weekly exclaimed, "The Utes must go." Ouray found himself in the difficult position of explaining to his people why they had to leave their homeland. On March 6, 1880, the Southern Ute and Uncompahgre tribes consented to move to the La Plata River and near the mouth of the Gunnison on the Grand River, respectively, while the White River Ute agreed to relocate to the Uinta Reservation in Utah. During the summer of 1880, Uray and his wife Chipeta traveled to the Southern Ute Agency at Ignacio with hopes of negotiating once more with the white authorities. However, Uray's health had deteriorated significantly during the journey, and upon arrival, he was gravely ill. He died from Bright's disease on August 24, 1880. He was laid to rest discreetly in Ignacio. Chief Uray's obituary in the Denver Tribune stated, "With the passing of Uray, a significant historical figure is lost. For many years he stood as the foremost Indian of his era, playing a prominent role throughout his life. Ouray, in numerous aspects, was an extraordinary Indian, characterized by his innate instincts and sharp perception. He was a friend to the white man and a guardian to his fellow Indians alike." 45 years after his death, Uray was buried again in the cemetery southeast of the White River Agency, and his grave was properly identified. His wife, Chipeta, remained dedicated to serving the Ute people. When adequate farming land proved elusive for the Uncompahgre in southern Colorado, a fresh reservation was established in 1882. Chipeta subsequently relocated to the reservation in northeast Utah, where she garnered profound respect and actively engaged in the chief's deliberations. She died in 1924. The town of Ouray, Colorado, was named in his honor.